This is Anthony Mitchell, and you are listening to a new episode of the End Zone Club. So, hey, business is business. First thing first. If you have not done so by now, please subscribe to the content of this podcast so that every time we put out a new episode, you can be on the cusp of some cutting edge information. And that means if you're going to subscribe, also share this information with your friends so that they too can be blessed. But most importantly, find the donate button and give $1 so that we can keep doing in the community what we have been doing, from our free football, basketball, dance camps to all of the other youth leadership activities that we provide. But anyway, let the beat rock, and you are getting ready to enjoy a new episode in 3, 2, 1. And just like that, we are back, guys. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. I wanted to make sure that I made you feel welcome when you came in this morning. You know, I was in my head, I was thinking that I couldn't wait till I, got this off the ground, this podcast, in a way where I have a sound engineer and I've got the tightest sound effects and everything else. However, until I can have the tightest sound effects and like an introduction that's like a rock star, doo-doom, 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 the sound just blazing, the man is going to have to make the podcast instead of the podcast make the man. But with that said, guys, we're just fresh off of a family trip, which, anytime you can get your family together, get them on a trip, get the kids, get the fighting down minimally, because when kids go places, I don't know what happens, if it's in the endorphins or what happens, the juices are flowing and you find them, sister wanting to hit sister, brother wanting to kick brother, and it's like, oh my God, when you guys are at home, you were so bored. And then when you get out, all of a sudden, it's just this unbridled energy. And it's like, oh, man. But now that we are fresh off that trip, you guys know that I'm feeling inspired and creative, which in turn benefits my listeners, because now that gives me the energy to record another podcast. I guess I want to pose a question to you guys that are listening, and you can email me here at the show at anthonymitchell01@gmail.com, anthonymitchell01@gmail.com with your responses. But have you ever had experiences with friendships, relationships, business-ships, partnerships? Have you ever seen them go left? I think that's where we're going to keep it at today, going left. It's an inevitable part of life that all things don't remain the same. I think the saying is that, the only constant in life is change. Going back to Birmingham, Alabama, I've been working there for the past 6 months. Birmingham is a very familiar place for me and my family because my dad was born and raised in Birmingham. I've got a lot of family there. And even once upon a time, my dream, God led me, if I could say that, in ministry to Birmingham, Alabama, where I was able to grow a lot from being, a young teenager to a man. Learned a lot about life, really had my first job, met my wife in Birmingham. So many good experiences happened for me in Birmingham that it's like a platform that I always look back on as a crossroads for me. So it holds a special, significant place in my heart. But with that said, going back to Birmingham, working and reconnecting with the city, it's grown a lot since I left. I want to say this because anytime you get back to a point where you re-tap into who you were, sometimes life, it flows in different ebbs and it goes different directions. And sometimes you're finding out that you have changed over time. Who I was at 24 moving into the city is a lot different than who I am now. Time has passed, kids have come, whatever. that's a reality in life, that sometimes as you are growing, sometimes as you are progressing, sometimes as you are experiencing new highs and life itself is changing you, there are certain things, people, places that you're going to tend to want to leave behind. So several years ago, when I think the movie The Notebook I think that was the movie, to kind of give you guys just a place mark or a bookmark in when all of the events that I'm getting ready to describe transcribed or happened. I think it was around the time The Notebook happened. And men my age know the significance of The Notebook, because it was one of those romantic stories that happened, that came out, that was in the movies, and then it was on Netflix, that you just had to watch if you were going to spend any significant time with a love story. Love stories that, women love, men tend to follow and watch. Because if that means, hey, I get a chance to spend some time with you watching this movie, I guess I'm just going to have to watch the movie watching me watch you. All right. But anyway, so around the time that The Notebook came out, and somehow or another, there was like this movement. I think there was even a Dear John letter scene in the movie. And I watched it. Don't remember where I watched it. I hate to say this. It's been several years ago now when Notebook came out. But watched the movie, but was inspired most not by the love story, because, of course, males don't tend to really do the love story stuff too much. And maybe it's the wrong movie, but it was the time of The Notebook that this event happened. But I got inspired by the Dear John letter, and I remember going home and penning a letter on Facebook, which at the time, Facebook used to allow you to write notes. There was a section just for writing notes. That was like one of the earlier developments with Facebook that, we were doing. So wrote a Dear John letter, was not actually at that point earmarking anybody in particular, but I was just expressing from the confines of my heart how now that I have begun to grow as a man, now that I'm in a new environment, I'm seeing God elevate me economically. He's elevating my mind. He's elevating so much of my life. It's like the guy that I was before I came to this point where I was very humble, very pushover, very quiet, had no confidence in life. I was this guy that, took anything that people were giving me in friendships. And with that being said, because of that, I was probably very non-controversial as well as non-confrontational. So that made me a very easy target, not just for being bullying, but for also people, confiding their secrets in me. And all people didn't mind being around me because basically I didn't have a presence. But now transitioning into Birmingham, it's like so much of that weight of pleasing people, so much of that weight of inevitability, so much of these different weights that I was carrying begin to fall off. Now I'm a new person. Now my confidence is growing. Now people have started accepting me for me. Now a lot of people wanted to be around me. A lot of people were enjoying my presence. And it's like, now I'm growing as a person. Let me pen this letter to who I used to be, so that now, even looking back, I'll have this landmark in my life where I crossed over into the next chapter of my life. And I would encourage you guys to do the same if you have not done so. Begin to place landmarks so that points and times and experiences, life events, where you begin to turn. So when I penned the letter and I hit submit, almost instantly, several friends from past portions of my life begin to spring forward and tell me how they were offended. Like, is this how it's ending for us? At the moment, the initial shock that someone had read this and made this personal turned to this understanding that sometimes, as the old people would say, if you throw rocks into a crowd, the hit dog will holler. So I began to evaluate some of the people that had responded the way they had and had taken it personal. And as I began to evaluate, I started noticing a trend. It was like maybe as an adult, maybe I hadn't seen enough healthy adults do this, where they're evaluating friendships and now they're having hard conversations with people that they've known a long time, but you really start realizing this person never meant me any good. This relationship was never beneficial to my own mental health. This relationship, this friendship, this person that I've been connected to for so long brings me no benefit, brings me no balance, brings me no perspective, brings me no sharpening opportunities, brings me nothing to my life. But yet we're connected and we're loosely throwing around the word friends. It's like some of the same people that responded the way they did, where they were the ones hurt, are the same peoples that were driving by me every time I came home and acted like I didn't exist. These were the same people that would come visit the city of Birmingham for weeks at a time, knowing that this same guy that, they called friend was there. And I would reach out to him. Hey, why are you here? Let me show you around the city. Let's have a good time. And they always brush me off. As I begin to evaluate the messed up stuff that I allowed some people to do, like the love I gave people that never came back reciprocated to me, when I started evaluating some of these friendships, I realized that they had died a long time ago. And the sound that I was hearing was a tree falling in the forest. That was the forest of now it's time to let it go. And to me, it is unfortunate, adults, that a lot of us would rather be in connection, be in a pairing, be in a union with a person just for the sake of having a friend that means us no good. So sometimes you have to write a Dear John letter. Sometimes you have to disconnect from people who mean you no good. It's not your fault that you have given your all in some friendships that haven't reciprocated back half the energy that you've put out. It is not your fault. When you begin to grow because God is opening doors and opportunities of advancement, and now you're walking through it, and as a result, the way you saw life, the filter, the lens that you allowed everything to flow through, now you're not seeing things to change. You were the person that got up and wished everybody happy birthday. You were the person that when major life events happened, you were there, the birth of a child, congratulations. You were the person that was giving people your best. And what did you get back? And that's nothing in return outside of the experience of knowing this is not what a healthy friendship relationship looks like. So sometimes as you pen these Dear John letters, don't make it facetious. Don't make it with daggers hidden under cloaks. Don't make it where you were secretly hoping to inflict the same level of pain that has been caused to you by not getting back what you should have gotten. But guys, move on. Move on with dignity. Move on with class. I don't care what society is showing us and a lot of reality shows that drama sells. I'm a bigger proponent of the reality that whatever energy you put out is what comes back. If you, as a horticulturalist, again, I say this all the time, I'm a country boy, big words I struggle with. But if you as a gardener, as a pruner, learn the significance of trimming back unnecessary branches so that your fruit can grow bigger, have more nutrients. All right, let me slow this down because I want you guys to get this principle. So you may not know this, but one of my passions is also I love gardening. I love planting things. I love seeing things grow. Maybe it's the Jamaican in me, but I don't put all of my eggs in one basket as far as where my food is grown. But I like tomatoes a lot, and my family love tomatoes. So whenever I plant my tomatoes, something I do is I give them nutrients, whether they're Epsom salt, Miracle-Gro, whatever. I like to supplement them so that they can draw all of the nutrients from the soil that they can to grow to their full potential. Well, it's the same thing with the tomatoes. As they're growing, you're encouraged that for some of the lower lying branches by the ground that you trim them off. That allows air passage to pass under the tomatoes, which now allows them to have more energy to grow bigger fruit. It allows them now to not spend extra energy on things like growing branches and leaves versus actually growing fruit. And sometimes that's the same principle that you have to apply to life. You got to cut off some lower lying branches, some things that are not providing you energy back or helping you draw nutrients from the soil and the life around you, so that you can optimally produce for your life what God has got. And I encourage young people to start doing this from a younger age. Evaluate relationships and experiences, but also learn the communication skills necessary for getting your point across. Not in an evil way, not in a bad way, but in a way that allows you to get your point across and to begin to heal and move forward. Guys, with that said, this is another edition of the End Zone Club. I thank you guys for coming out, because you guys are the real heroes. Y'all hear that? Y'all are the real heroes. Without you, there is no show. So keep supporting, keep hitting like, keep hitting share, hit the donate button. Help me get this word and this content out. But guys, until next time, be blessed.